We often think about the nutritional value of the food we eat. We consider vitamins, minerals, and calories. However, a hidden danger lurks within our food supply: toxic metals. These metals, invisible to the naked eye, are increasingly being linked to a range of health problems, including cancer. Shockingly, recent studies estimate that over 13,000 cases of cancer each year are directly attributable to the consumption of foods contaminated with heavy metals. This alarming statistic highlights the urgent need to understand and address this growing threat to public health. Our modern food system, while efficient, has inadvertently exposed us to these harmful substances. From the soil in which our crops are grown to the water used in irrigation, heavy metals can infiltrate various stages of food production. This contamination poses a serious risk to consumers, as these metals accumulate in our bodies over time, increasing the likelihood of developing chronic diseases like cancer. Understanding the sources of these contaminants and the specific dangers they present is crucial for making informed choices about the food we consume and advocating for safer food production practices. Among the most concerning toxic metals found in food are lead, arsenic, and cadmium. Lead, a potent neurotoxin, finds its way into our food supply primarily through contaminated soil and water. It can also leach into food from certain types of packaging and cookware. Arsenic, a naturally occurring element found in the Earth's crust, can contaminate water sources and subsequently crops. Its presence in rice, a staple food for a large portion of the global population, is particularly concerning. Cadmium, another heavy metal, enters the food chain through industrial emissions and the use of phosphate fertilizers. It readily accumulates in leafy green vegetables and grains, posing a significant health risk. These metals, often referred to as silent invaders due to their lack of taste or smell, can wreak havoc on our bodies. They interfere with crucial biological processes, damage organs, and disrupt hormonal balance, ultimately increasing the risk of various cancers. The link between heavy metal exposure and cancer is well established. These metals act as carcinogens, meaning they have the potential to damage DNA and initiate the development of cancerous cells. Lead, for instance, has been linked to an increased risk of brain, kidney, and stomach cancers. Arsenic exposure is associated with a higher incidence of skin, lung, bladder, and liver cancers. Cadmium, a known human carcinogen, has been strongly linked to lung cancer and is also suspected to play a role in prostate, kidney, and pancreatic cancers. The mechanisms by which these metals contribute to cancer development are complex and multifaceted. They can induce oxidative stress, disrupt DNA repair mechanisms, and promote inflammation, all of which contribute to the uncontrolled growth and proliferation of cancer cells. It's alarming to discover that even foods considered healthy can harbor dangerous levels of heavy metals. While fruits, vegetables, and whole grains are cornerstones of a balanced diet, certain varieties are particularly susceptible to metal contamination. Rice, for example, is known to accumulate arsenic from irrigation water and soil. Root vegetables like carrots and potatoes, due to their proximity to the soil, can absorb heavy metals present in the ground. Leafy greens, although packed with nutrients, can also absorb cadmium from the soil. Even dark chocolate, often touted for its antioxidant properties, has been found to contain high levels of lead and cadmium. This contamination stems from the cacao beans absorbing heavy metals from the soil during cultivation. These findings underscore the importance of understanding the origin of our food and advocating for agricultural practices that minimize contamination. Recent studies have painted a grim picture of the extent of heavy metal contamination in our food supply and its direct link to cancer cases. A comprehensive study published in the journal Environmental Health Perspectives analyzed data from multiple national surveys and estimated that over 13,000 cancer cases each year in the United States are attributable to dietary exposure to arsenic, lead, and cadmium. This study highlights the significant public health burden associated with heavy metal contamination in food. Another study, published in the journal PLOS One, found detectable levels of arsenic, lead, cadmium, and mercury in a wide range of baby foods, raising serious concerns about the impact of early life exposure on children's health. These findings have spurred calls for stricter food safety regulations and greater transparency in the food industry. The Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, plays a crucial role in ensuring the safety of our food supply. However, critics argue that current regulations are not stringent enough to adequately protect consumers from the threat of heavy metal contamination. While the FDA does set limits for certain heavy metals in some foods, these limits are often based on outdated science and do not necessarily reflect the latest understanding of the health risks posed by these contaminants. Moreover, the FDA's enforcement of existing regulations has been criticized as being inadequate. A lack of resources and a complex global food supply chain make it challenging for the agency to effectively monitor and control heavy metal contamination. There is a growing consensus among public health advocates and scientists that a more proactive and comprehensive approach to food safety is needed. While advocating for systemic change is crucial, there are steps individuals can take to minimize their exposure to heavy metals in food. Choosing organic fruits and vegetables whenever possible can reduce exposure to pesticides and heavy metals that may be present in conventionally grown produce. Thoroughly washing fruits and vegetables before consumption, even those labeled as pre-washed, can help remove surface contaminants. Varying one's diet and including a wide variety of foods can also help reduce the risk of overexposure to specific contaminants. For example, alternating between rice and other grains can reduce arsenic intake. Choosing seafood from lower on the food chain, such as sardines and anchovies, can minimize mercury exposure. These simple yet effective strategies can empower consumers to make safer food choices. The alarming rise in cancer cases linked to toxic metals in food underscores the urgent need for increased public awareness and collective action. Consumers have the power to demand change by supporting stricter food safety regulations and demanding greater transparency from the food industry. By staying informed about the sources of heavy metal contamination and making conscious choices about the food we buy, we can send a powerful message to policymakers and corporations. Supporting organizations working to promote sustainable agriculture and advocating for stricter environmental regulations can also contribute to a safer food system. By working together, we can create a future where everyone has access to safe, nutritious food free from the threat of toxic metals. The issue of heavy metal contamination extends beyond our plates, impacting the environment and posing risks to ecosystems. The agricultural practices that contribute to heavy metal accumulation in soil and water can have far-reaching consequences. Runoff from farms can carry these contaminants into rivers, lakes, and oceans, harming aquatic life and disrupting delicate ecological balances. The mining and industrial processes that release heavy metals into the environment also contribute to this widespread contamination. These pollutants can persist in the environment for decades, accumulating in the food chain and posing long-term risks to both human and environmental health. Addressing the environmental impacts of heavy metal contamination requires a multifaceted approach that includes reducing emissions from industrial sources, promoting sustainable agricultural practices, and investing in remediation efforts to clean up contaminated sites. The problem of heavy metal contamination in food is not confined to any one region or country. It's a global crisis that demands global solutions. Developing countries, with often less stringent environmental regulations and limited resources for monitoring and enforcement, are particularly vulnerable to the health and economic impacts of food contamination. International collaboration is crucial for sharing knowledge, developing best practices, and providing technical and financial assistance to countries struggling to address this issue. Harmonizing food safety standards, strengthening regulatory frameworks, and investing in research and development of innovative technologies for detecting and mitigating heavy metal contamination are essential steps toward ensuring a safer global food supply. The link between heavy metals in food and cancer is a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of human health and the health of our planet. We are all stakeholders in the fight for a safer and more sustainable food system. This is a call to action for individuals, policymakers, and industries to prioritize food safety and work collaboratively to create a future free from the threat of toxic metals. By demanding greater transparency and accountability from the food industry, supporting sustainable agricultural practices, and advocating for stricter environmental regulations, we can create a world where everyone has access to safe, nutritious, and sustainably produced food. Let us rise to the challenge and work together to build a healthier and more equitable future.